Hello and welcome to The Current Thing with me, Nick Dixon. Now, important announcement that doesn't really affect you and only really affects me, but The Current Thing is now going to be a weekly topical show. We've done these episodes before with people like Leo and Simon Evans and Paul Cox, but then we've interspersed them with in-depth guest interviews. What I'm going to do now is do a weekly topical show, still call it The Current Thing because it's such a good name for that, and I couldn't think of a better one. I did briefly think of Topical Thunder, but that's just too ridiculous, so I'm going to call it The Current Thing, but it's going to be a weekly topical show for free, just 'cause I'm such a nice guy. And then I'll try and do a weekly interview, but I'm not promising that yet. I'm going to do guest episode interviews whenever I can at the moment, and eventually we'll try and do it weekly. But we'll do a current thing every week. And if you go to nickdixon.net, you also get my reaction episodes, which are me on my own reacting to things like the Trump assassination attempt and stuff. You get all my articles. It's £5 a month, which is about the cost of a fifth of a pint now in London. Actually, for £5 a month, they just let you smell the beer, then they throw it away. So nickdixon.net for all the extra stuff. But I'm going to do The Current Thing as a weekly topical show going forward. I've already got 2 more booked in. It's going to be great. But now let's get on and introduce one of the top 2 presenters on GB News. He's very strong, as he's just demonstrated on the video. It is, of course, Mr. Leo Kearse. How you doing, Leo?
I'm good, Nick. Thanks for having me back.
No worries. I didn't take a breath before I did that intro, and it was really hard. It was quite long, and you're struggling when you're getting out of breath during an intro to a podcast.
I assumed you had a pipe somewhere just feeding into your lungs.
I need to work on
like an iron lung.
I just forgot to take a breath. Actually, I need to work on my cardio, but I did. My heart rate reached 198 doing I was doing hard row machine followed by wall ball, where you pick up that heavy ball and throw it at the wall. Did that on 2 rounds, and I looked at my heart rate after it hit 198. Is that dangerous?
You only get a certain number of beats. Apparently, and this goes for all mammals, and pretty much all mammals have the same number of heartbeats during their lives. But obviously, a mouse, only lives for a couple of years. Its heart beats much faster than an elephant, which lives longer. So if you speed up your heart rate, you're shortening your life, and this is why I never do cardio.
Oh, I didn't realize. I didn't know. Is that true? It
Yeah,
sounds like quackery.
the best way to exercise your heart is to actually give it work to do in the system. So give it cholesterol and some fatty deposits that it's got to push past. And then it'll be doing fewer beats, but it'll be pushing harder on those beats, so it'll become stronger.
So eat burgers, eat junk, and kind of your heart becomes like a power lifter, just trying to get like 1 beat done.
Exactly. And if you can take massive amounts of steroids, because they make your heart grow, and obviously the larger your heart is, the better.
Okay, so steroids,
that's why people say he's big. He's a big-hearted guy.
Yeah, it's a good thing. You're right. No one's ever wanted a small heart. That's good advice, Leo. Okay, good, because this is a health podcast as well. I thought we'd get into some of these topics then here on Topical Thunder. It's not called that. It's still called The Current Thing. And the first one is this.
If it was Topical Thunder, you'd have to do it in blackface.
Yes, which is going to be a new segment. I haven't rolled that out yet. I've got to go to the boots and pick up some stuff.
Maybe not in 2024 under Keir Starmer.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Is blackface illegal under Starmer? We need to know. We need these answers. Did unacceptable blackface. They're thugs.
All right, thuggery.
But then if one of the protected classes does whiteface, it'd be like, it's an important protest against historic injustices.
And here's your Arts Council grant.
Yeah. For just some Muslim guy with a white face killing people. Anyway, we started as we mean to go on, which is getting ourselves. Did you actually tweet and wonder, is this one going to get me arrested? Because I do.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You never know. You never know under Starmer. I've looked at some of the. In fact, I did a video about it. Some of the memes that people were getting jailed for. There's a guy, a Sellafield worker. I can't remember his name. Tony Dunn or something. But he was jailed for I think 10 weeks. For sharing 3 memes, and one of them was just like a picture of like Asian-looking guys saying "coming to a town near you," and it's like that's just him saying, this is. If anything, it's factually accurate because of Labour's Operation Scatter, which means that asylum seekers are going to be dispersed across the country, so they are going to be coming to a town near you. That's, if anything, it's a reflection on what he sees in British society, and it's a sort of criticism of government policy. And the worst one that he had was there was one with Asian guys getting off a boat, and it said, when they're on your turf, then what? But that's not like a direct incitement to violence. It's not stirring up racism or anything. So I was really shocked to see that he got done under these laws. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of appeals, because a lot of these seem to be just being rushed through with maybe duty solicitors that are just advising them to take the guilty plea. So there could be appeals, but it is under communist systems they create laws that are so arbitrary and so everybody's broken them. Everybody's tweeted something. Everybody's tweeted something that everybody's said something that could be um, could get you in trouble if that guy's getting in trouble for that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So everybody's broken these laws, and then the government can pick and choose who to lock up, and that's how communist systems work.
Yeah, exactly. They find the person to fit the crime, or the crime to what
Yeah,
is it crime to fit? I can't remember how that phrase goes, but yeah, I worry about it. I try to phrase things carefully, but it is absurd that we're in that position. And yeah, you had people like that guy Tyler Kay, I think his name was, 26-year-old. We had kids. He went to jail for 3 years and 2 months because he copy and pasted that thing from the wife of a Tory councillor. I've talked about it before, but it said, I don't care what happens to these migrants, and set fire to hotels for all I care, which is not great. But I still
yeah,
don't think it's incitement, and I still don't think it's 3 years and 2 months in prison, given
yeah.
that you've had a guy raping a 13-year-old girl in Newcastle and getting no prison, 2 years suspended, then community service, or another
Mm.
guy killed a 14-year-old with a machete, got manslaughter, got out after 6 months. So we
Yeah.
all know
Well,
about
he
the
he had,
two
he
tier.
wasn't he was the one who bought the machete. So he was prosecuted for his involvement in it,
I
but
see.
he didn't actually strike the kid with the machete. So
I
he was
see.
just an accessory to killing a 14-year-old, which is fine apparently.
That's not anywhere near as bad as tweets. Yeah, I'm already thinking, can we even put this on YouTube? Do I have to censor it? So speaking of Starmer, he did this speech. It was quite funny. He had this little thing fixing the foundations. I thought someone had overlaid that. That was actually written on his little lectern, fixing
Yeah,
the foundations. Who is this loser? And he's in the garden, and he's going, this garden was used for parties. Now it's used for miserable speeches. And he's in the garden, and he gives out this speech. Gives out is a strange word. He does this speech, and it's all grim. Things are going to get worse. There's going to be pain. It's much worse than we imagined. He's basically saying he found a black hole in the finances, so now they
yeah,
can't afford anything, and it's going to be taxes. Presumably, it's going to be capital gains tax, inheritance tax. There'll probably be other surprises in there. And one thing that struck me was there's endless pain, but what is the benefit? I compared it to like going on a diet. You're like, well, this is awful, but I lose weight at the end. But
yeah.
I don't know what we're getting towards at the end. Did you get that?
No, and when he's saying fixing the foundations, I mean the sort of foundations of what's causing a low trust society, and what's causing low wages and what's causing rising house prices, is the exact same thing. He doesn't want to. That's what he's not going to fix. He's not going to fix mass immigration. He wants to keep it going from an ideological position. He's a utopian. He thinks that diversity is strength. So if we bring millions of people into Britain, it'll make it a much richer and more wonderful place. Even though the examples from around the world, it's like you say, the left is always idealistic and reality is always right wing. The examples around the world from Lebanon, from the Balkans, show that diversity often isn't that much of a strength and can quite often feed sectarian conflict. And I think he's going to have trouble with this. He's announcing taxes are going up. We've already got like insanely high taxes in the UK. What we really need is somebody to come in and slash the bloated public sector, because I've worked in the public sector. I've seen it firsthand. I was left wing before I worked in the public sector. There's so many people sitting about doing nothing, not just the diversity coordinators and all that. Like there's so many non-jobs, and even the people with jobs that might have a positive thing. Quite often there's mismanagement, as you can see in the NHS. But the majority of local authority jobs and the Arts Council as a whole can just get scrapped. There we've saved billions already. But he's putting up taxes. He's increasing the size of the public sector. He stopped a plan because over lockdown they hired 60 odd thousand new civil servants. So the Tories had planned to get rid of them. He said we're going to keep them on and we're going to hire more civil servants because the state is going to do more for people. I mean, this is the opposite of what is actually needed. We need a Javier Milei to come in and do that. But what he's doing is he's putting up taxes for people. But the trouble with that is the people who pay the most tax don't use the services anymore. I think if you put taxes up, 30 years ago, people who were high earners were using the NHS. Now anybody who's a high earner has got private healthcare. They've got private schools. They've got services that they use are going to be privately supplied. So when they're paying more tax, there's less incentive. They don't feel that they're getting anything for that money. And also, there's not a sense of cohesion. We're not a sort of homogenous, harmonious country anymore. So you know that your taxes are going to help people that you've got no kinship with. They might have radically different cultures and opinions to yourself. So you don't even have that feeling of helping out, your brothers. Um, so I'm not sure if his tax rises are going to fly, especially when we've got such a mobile professional um, uh, like if you're working the knowledge economy, you can work in it from anywhere in the world. I mean, maybe there's some restrictions, but I know people who live in Andorra and work for British companies. So you might need to fly in once a month, but you'll pay less tax in Andorra. And I think we're going to see an exodus of people from Britain, an exodus of the people who actually pay the tax, and an influx of the people who suck up the tax.
Yeah, and they're targeting non-doms and all that. Yeah, it's never worked. People just leave. If it would only work if you weren't allowed to leave, that would be quite an interesting system. You're just locked in
Yeah,
your country. Then that would be. Then it might work. But yeah, people will just leave, as you say. It's funny, isn't it, when you realize how few people are net contributors? What was that? There was that stat a few months ago. It was like almost half the country were net negatives, basically, as far as
yeah.
I recall.
I think it's slightly more than half now,
Right.
and we're getting towards a sort of South African system where I think it's just 1 in 7 actually pays into the system. like,
It's kind of crazy to realize, maybe because of GB News, and of course it can end any time. But I've ended up probably like
yeah,
a net contributor. I'm like pulling the weight of this country. Finally, I've got the GB News. I've got 2 podcasts. I've got these things going on, working every single day just to
yeah,
pay for. And I can like point at them because the social housing's across across there. I can point at the people who I'm working for, the people who are screaming and sort of ruining, so I can't sit outside and sitting
yeah,
outside in their balconies all day. I'm going. I think I'm working. I think I'm leaving work to go to work now while they sit here, and I think I'm paying for that. I've never really
yeah,
thought of it
yeah,
like that until just now, but like I'm literally paying, and they're annoying me, and I don't want them really. It's something like, not to target any one group, but Somalia. Well, I'm going to now target Somalia. 72% of them apparently on social housing. I saw a stat. We
yeah,
basically bring over people, and they don't contribute, and they can commit crimes. Not seeing that any group there, but some people, some of these migrants and immigrants commit crimes. So you bring people over, they drain the country financially and possibly commit crimes, and you give them a free house. What's the point of
yeah.
that?
Yeah, it doesn't seem well thought out to me. I think if you have a points-based system, and rigidly enforced borders like, the Australian system, not that it's perfect, but, I think Australia and America to a certain extent get, more productive immigrants than we do. And we sort of incentivize the non-productive ones. If you come to Britain to work, man, you're going to be paying so much tax. You're gonna, you're you're not going to get. You might as well go to somewhere like America, where the standard of living is better. But if you're somebody who doesn't want to work, who just wants to pump out lots of children, possibly with the goal of eventually having some sort of ideological religious takeover of Western Europe for some sort of caliphate, then yeah, the UK is very attractive. You can live a very good life on welfare if you have enough kids and manage to get them, diagnosed with stuff, and are happy to commit all kinds of fraud. Then yeah, you can have a fantastic life at the expense of the British taxpayer.
I wondered during that section who was going to say the worst thing. I was like, I've said a Somalian thing now. You said caliphate. I'm like, maybe that was worse. It's going to turn into a
Amish,
competition.
and I was obviously referring to an Amish caliphate.
Yeah, and that's so was I. Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked up this claim. That I'm just about looking it up live now, which doesn't work. But there was this claim going around that Britain was poorer than Mississippi, and there's all these
Yeah,
think pieces. Is it really? Which probably means it is. But we're certainly far apart. When I hear about American wages, they just hear our wages. You see tweets sometimes, and I've spoken to people about it, and our wages are like a joke to them. They're like, what? And
yeah,
someone did a meme, and they were. Do you see that meme? It was like of a gammon, and the idea was that he's crying because if it wasn't for the immigrant, he would be making 80K as a lawyer. And the idea is, no, you wouldn't. You scum. It's a kind of mid-wit lefty meme. But then American point out, it's like, I love the idea that the highest wage a British person can think of is 80K for a lawyer. It's like a starting wage in America, and so we're just incredibly poor. Um,
yeah.
and it's funny, by the way, you said you were radicalized by the public sector. Like, was it 4chan, Leo? Was it online? No, it was working for the public sector. I
It
love
was
that. That's what did it.
Haringey Council did it.
Really, that's. Oh, I don't. I was gonna say that's Riley, but I don't want to dox myself. I've moved.
Yeah, I worked at Westminster Council, and I worked at the Foreign Office as well. and at Greenwich Council for a bit as well. But yeah, not all of them. Westminster was maybe the least badly run, but all of them were pretty atrociously run with nebulous benefits to the public.
I always struggle to imagine you working a normal job. It must just be, was your tongue just bleeding all day from biting it constantly for not saying all the things you wanted to say? I mean, even when you were not right wing, you like to say outrageous stuff, right?
Yeah, but it's honestly working in the public sector. If you want to just doss about, which I did at that time. I mean, honestly, I did some good work. I was a a good criminal intelligence analyst and stuff. But man, if you want to fanny around, because people are always saying to me, "How have you got such a good tan?" And I was like, anytime the sun comes out, I just grab a stack of papers and walk out of the office and just go and lie down somewhere in the park, go around the corner,
I
and then I'll
believe that.
come back in like 2 hours later. And if you're carrying a stack of papers, people just assume you've been in a meeting. The public sector is just like that. I even worked in sort of when I worked in the private sector. I worked in sort of change management and management consultancy. And so I went into public sector organizations to improve their working processes and make them more efficient, which was, man, if you want to talk about low hanging fruit, you know what I mean? It's like, but there was a
You
big
wake up,
quangle.
you just walk out, you come into the office.
Yeah. Fire people and see if anything happens. Oh, nothing's happened. Yeah, they weren't doing anything. But I remember one place we went into, there was a guy sitting there with two laptops. And bear in mind, they knew that the consultants were coming in to see what people were doing. So if there was a time to sort of like straighten up and fly right, it's this. So he's got these two laptops, and he's like, "So what are you doing on this laptop?" And he's like, I'm forex trading." And it's like, what's the other laptop for? It's like, I'm running a chicken farm in Gambia or something like that. It was like, a chicken farm somewhere overseas. And it's like, yeah, what about your work? What about the job that you've come in to do in the office? He's like,
Yeah, because
it's
that's
like,
an
man, just
incredibly productive guy. If you're a forex trader or a chicken farmer, he's like elite.
yeah, but it was just like, oh, and also the guy who's in charge of the IT department there. So that was in the IT department. The guy who's run the IT department also ran a recruitment agency hiring out people. So when he hired somebody into his IT department, paid for by the taxpayer, he was hiring them from his own privately run um, recruitment agency. So he was getting an enormous kickback from this. So there was obviously a huge incentive for him to create roles that were unnecessary, so he could generate lots of money. And that's real, like, sort of Putin-esque level fraud. And instead of you'd think somebody like that would be put on trial. No, he wasn't even fired. He wasn't even fired. That's a level of that's just the expected level of graft in the public sector.
I don't trust the public sector, and I don't trust Starmer's plan because it's all, oh, we've created a wealth management fund, we've created a energy scheme. It's like, that doesn't actually do anything. Like, you can't just put up a sign and say money tree. It's like it doesn't work. So how is he actually going to do it? And when you look into, I read up an article in the Mail Plus, or when GB's political correspondent Catherine Forster was, I think that's her name, was talking to him, apparently Starmer, after the speech, and she didn't really hear how he's going to really level up these towns. So they admit that in the poorer towns you get more rioting. I don't believe that's the sole cause, but you do get that. And if you read up on Labour, it sounds like they don't have a plan for it. They say things like, well, it's too much to do in 5 years, and to coordinate that many different departments is going to be impossible. So basically, they're saying already they don't really have a plan for it. He's talking about growth. Well, we'll get growth, and that'll help those places. There's no real plan for it.
Yeah,
And
and also it's not something that a central government can really change. Like you don't sort of increase entrepreneurialism by pumping a region with cash. I remember after Foot and Mouth, like where I'm from in Scotland, got the region received a lot of cash. But like if you're building a new whatever it is, like stadium or something, or a new road or whatever it is, some big public sector infrastructure project. I mean, that's good news for people who are building the stadium. They get money. It's good news for the company that's building the handling all that. They get money. For me, I just get to walk past the stadium, and I'm still poor.
mm,
So I think if he reduced tax and made the country more entrepreneurial, because that's what any country that's lifted itself out of poverty, like China. China that moved from rural subsistence farming to sort of urbanization and the economic growth was by the government stepping back from controlling industry. So the government needs to get out of the way.
It's so annoying. They just, where do they think wealth comes from? It comes from the people they hate, the
Yeah,
entrepreneurial people who they don't really see as proper people. It's the public sector. They don't really, if you're self-employed or something, they don't really see you as a proper human. They don't really understand it.
yeah. And
Um,
this idea of a sovereign wealth fund, like if you look at places like Norway, it's got a sovereign wealth fund because of all the North Sea oil. Obviously, we used our North Sea oil money to pay for stuff, and like we don't have like they've already announced that they're not going to do any new oil and gas exploration in the North Sea. So where's the money? Where's the money for like the sovereign wealth fund going to come from? We don't have anything that's gonna like if we had any money, it would probably be better spent paying down the debt that we're paying a lot of interest on. So yeah, it seems like a dumb idea.
I'm skeptical. And by the way, foot and mouth was devastating for where I'm from the lakes. But my mum got a digital camera, so that was nice. But yeah, that was
Nice.
when they were a big thing, when they just came in because they gave us some money because they destroyed everyone's business with nonsense.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, yeah, because I got a digital camera. One of the first ones, a Nikon Coolpix, because I was doing like web development and stuff like that.
I love that
So
you still know the model. You're kind of a geek on like that kind of thing. Like, you know the models of every Ukrainian drone and your digital camera from 2003. That's incredible.
Man, Ukraine's just developed this long-range jet drone that's just incredible, and it's very cheap to produce compared to cruise missiles, which typically cost like millions.
Oh no, I've started you
So
on the
man,
drones.
it's
I shouldn't have said drone.
but Ukraine, man, Ukraine's going to come out of this war like a world leader in drone technology. Like its naval drones are insane. They've like Russia had like a Black Sea fleet, all these, you know, heavily armed carriers and missile cruisers and all the rest of it. And Ukraine doesn't even have a navy. They had like a couple of ships at the start and they were sunk. One of them was scuttled, one of them was sunk in harbor. But it's developed these unmanned drones and just taken out so much of Russia's Black Sea fleet that Russia now has to hold its fleet, what's left of its fleet, way back out of the way. Like honestly, Ukraine's fighting such a blinding war when it comes to drones and like their ground drones and stuff like that as well. Man, it's
Hmm.
it
You
always it blows my mind. You get right wing people who are all like on Russia's side. It's like so you're on the side of authoritarianism and left wingism if it's Russia, but you won't stand up for like Ukraine's definitely a sort of traditional Christian right wing country. If you're inclined that way, I don't know why somebody would support Russia, which is Russia's also doing a sort of speed run of this global homogenization, this WEF style, importing as many people as possible from all around the world. It blows my mind that
yeah.
then you get people who are like, no, Ukraine must be bad because somebody says it's good.
Yeah, I know that's where you sort of lose some of the right and you get into these conflicts. But I take your point. I don't get too
I
involved
don't
in
see
it.
them as right. I see
Um,
them as just contrarian for the sake of contrarianism. So they're probably
well, some of it
just
is because they hate the globalist agenda, and they hate the kind of, they see Ukraine as part of that, all the people putting the flags in their bio, and they say, oh, this must be bad because the liberal managerial class I despise is doing it. That's basically the
yeah.
thinking. But we did
But,
see.
but they should take it as a win. They should turn around to those people and say, "Look, when it comes down to it, when lives are at stake, when borders are at stake, proper, countries are facing extinction. You become right wing and you support this right wing traditional Christian country with with and a lot of its soldiers are pretty much more far right than I think anybody on the right in the UK would be comfortable with. So I just see that as an incredible win that all these wishy washy liberals support Ukraine.
Did you see that Putin trolling when he said he was going to offer sanctuary to those fleeing neoliberal values in the West?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean it's a good troll,
Yeah.
but I don't think Russia's really going to be the land of freedom. Although it's interesting with Keir Starmer bringing in all these free speech laws. He's going to beef up the Online Safety Act, and they're bringing back non-crime hate incidents, which I don't think ever went away, but they're going to use them a lot more to clamp down on. He's going to bring through an Islamophobia law, so you can't question Islam. And it's similar to the restrictions on speech in China and Russia, but at least when China has rigidly controlled speech, It's to sort of enhance national unity and national pride and patriotism. When Keir Starmer does it, it's to ensure nobody has any patriotism or national pride or nativism whatsoever.
Yeah, I saw. And by the way, Foot and Mouth was 2001 before any of the nerds write in. Yeah, they're bringing back this. Suella changed the guidance, and she said there was just someone who was whistling Bob the Builder, the theme tune, and their neighbor perceived racial hatred, and she said, I don't even know how that's possible. But Bob the Builder must have changed since I watched it. I mean, I've never watched it,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. When did Bob the Builder go far right? But Suella changed the guidance so there weren't all these trivial claims. Yeah, Labour are undoing that. It was in the headline. We're recording on Wednesday. It was in the headlines today that they're getting rid of that legislation again.
Mm.
What the heck? What the heck are they doing? And their claim was, oh, it's stopping people investigating community tensions between Jewish people and Muslims. Like, is it? I mean, maybe we shouldn't have brought in loads of people who hate the country. That's another debate. But is it really doing that? I just think it's more Labour anti-free speech stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and also they're instead of dealing with the underlying issues, instead of fixing the foundations, he's kicking the can down the road, and it's gonna get worse. And those underlying tensions aren't going to go away. And a third of population growth in the UK is from is Muslim. So extrapolate that to 50 years from now, the share of Muslim population growth is going to grow even more. So we're looking at in a few generations, it's going to be a Muslim country, and that's I think that can't really happen without generating more tensions that are gonna bubble over.
Mm.
So yeah, it's gonna be, instead of looking at the situation and saying like, oh, we're Lebanon, before things got bad, they're saying no, let's stop anybody complaining about it. Let's deal with anybody noticing it and kick the can down the road. And then if anybody mentions it, if anybody brings it up, they're accused, like Elon Musk said, civil war is inevitable. And that's a warning. That's not an incitement, but it was treated as an incitement. Anybody who notices, anybody who complains, anybody who's read history about what happens in countries where you have a influx of, you know, a different demographic group with quite radically different cultural beliefs. Um, Anybody who says anything about that or questions it is accused of incitement, when in fact they're really saying, listen, if you do this, there's you're going to cause a lot of problems for the future.
Yeah, well, no, it was not incitement. Although I've never thought it was a civil war because it's not monarchy versus parliament, for example. It's people we've brought in, and it's not. It's more like a traditional war, except we've brought the people in and invited them into the country, which is not what you generally do. That's unconventional historically. But so I don't see it quite. I don't accept that it's a civil war, but I do see his point. I'm off to Russia anyway, so I'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, what did you just finishing on the speech? Because we're still ostensibly on the Starmer speech topic. What did you think about his lack of mentioning immigration at all then? Because I've written on Twitter the most disgusting line of Starmer's speech was, this shouldn't be a country where people fear walking down the street. Because the next line about cars being set on fire showed that he only meant the riots and not the real causes, immigration and two-tier policing. So that's what he did. He said people shouldn't be afraid to walk down the street. And you go, oh, yeah, I agree with that part. Then he talked, and he's clearly talking about only the riots and basically only British working class people. So people do fear walking down the streets, but a lot of it is because they don't know, they've got unvetted migrants wandering around, they're stabbing people potentially. They've got two-tier policing. They know that crime is generally up. They know the police won't do anything. So
Yeah.
that's why people are worried. They're not worried because, oh, Gary might be chucking a telly. That's very, very rarely happens. I mean, what was that all about? He didn't mention immigration at all.
Yeah, when politicians are addressing people's feelings, it always seems to be, it's not, there's no parity in how they do it. So if a white person says, "Oh, my area's had a huge influx of ethnic minorities," like Alum Rock in Birmingham, where they had the graffiti, no whites,
Oh
no
yeah,
whites allowed, or something like that, which is also public sector recruitment policy. So you can't really come down on them too hard. But that area is like 93% non-white. So if somebody living in Alum Rock said, I'm concerned because my area is now, almost completely ethnic minorities, and people are different to me, and I get this aggression, I get this graffiti, they would be condemned as a racist bigot who just needs to tolerate the influx of people. Whereas I read a thing in the Guardian that was about Muslims and ethnic minorities living in Clacton-on-Sea, so Nigel Farage's constituency, and they were saying, "Oh, we don't feel safe now that the it's a reform area now. A reform MP is elected here, and obviously their concerns are just taken, and they're not told, oh, you need to be more tolerant. There's a complete disparity. And yeah, when he's talking about feelings and stuff, it's only going to go one way, and everybody can see it. If anybody mentions it, they're condemned as, that's some sort of far right bigotry to notice, as it is with all of this stuff.
Yeah, and did you? Yeah, I thought it was not shocking because we know what Starmer's like, but he didn't mention anything about immigration. He also didn't take a question from GB News, which was quite funny. Christopher Hope was saying why he had his hand up, saying how come he's not taking my question, and he's not taking any questions from GB before the election. He took a double question from Christopher Hope, who, by the way, is a highly respected journalist, 20 years at the Telegraph, helped break
Yeah.
the expenses scandal, so he's a serious journalist, and before the election, I noticed he took two questions from Chris and said, but I'll take the second one out of respect for Chris. And you're like, oh, you respect Chris so much. As soon as he gets elected, no GB News
Yeah.
questions. And they did a funny thing on Patrick's show. Jonathan Cogan actually put it together. They did a picture of Christopher Hope in lederhosen, just with Chris's face on it, to be like, he's in Germany, he'll blend in. He can ask, because Starmer's over in Germany doing some dodgy deal
Yeah.
with Schultz, trying to get us back into the EU by the back door.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of? What do you think of the fact they just won't take questions from GB?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's so obvious. Like, imagine if we're a right wing party. Imagine if the Tories got in and they wouldn't take questions from the Guardian or the BBC.
I thought you
They'd be
said a right wing
condemned.
party. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. I mean,
Oh,
it would be a good idea if the Tories did that, and that's the thing, man. All this stuff that the left are doing now, all this, locking up anybody for right wing opinions, they're basically setting the precedent
right.
for when the right get into power, and the right can then turn around and do the exact same thing to them,
Yeah.
without any fear of criticism,
If
and
they're
they can say, well, look, this is exactly what you were doing to us. So I think the left, should really watch out what precedent they're setting, because under the Tories there wasn't this level of oppression and persecution of anybody who disagreed with the government, or anybody who had left wing opinions, and yet ignoring questions from GB News, that's just going to feed into people's ideas that the government isn't being run as a democratic thing. It's not listening to all people. It's not communicating with all people. It's just a leftist cabal that's seized power.
someone called me a Nazi about this on Twitter, and I was like, yes, the Nazi asking that the government be held to account by independent journalists. Yes, classic Nazi tactic. Um, it just these people, man. And someone else said, "Oh, I think," and I use the phrase "honest journalism." Someone's like, "I think you better check your definition of honest journalism, pal." I was like, why are you calling Christopher Hope not honest after his 20 years work? I mean, he's incredibly mainstream journalist, but hey, I'm using logic on these people. But yeah, you're right. I mean, from an elite theory perspective, Carl Schmitt friend enemy distinction, the left are playing an absolute blinder because you reward your friends and you punish your enemies, and this is how
Yeah.
power works. And this is at least in elite theory. And the right have been uniquely bad at this, and like they're always like, "Hey, fair play," and what if it was the other way around, and all this stuff. Whereas
Yeah.
obviously, what they need to do is get in and just crush their enemies.
Yeah, and you saw this with the Tories when they got in. I mean, all right, I think when they first got in, it was a coalition government, but like when Tony Blair got in, he did a sort of root and branch reform of the civil service and made sure it was people who would actually enact what he wanted to do. Whereas the Tories didn't do that. They just they sat on top. The civil service remained this blob with a carapace that would deflect any requests from actually elected representatives. So the Tories couldn't do anything. Look at Rishi trying to get a plane to fly to Rwanda. It's ridiculous. And like, people criticize the Rwanda scheme, by the way, for being too expensive. If you look at the cost of like the illegal immigrant amnesty that Keir Starmer is planning. So 44,000 illegal immigrants are going to be given, just going to be allowed to stay as British citizens. That the cost of that is going to be £18 billion. So it kind of makes Rwanda look a bit better value than it did before.
Yeah, my only problem with Rwanda was that Dominic Cummings, and I always just believe everything he says, said it was Boris just sort of not dealing with the problem, and it was never a serious idea. And you had to leave the ECHR, so you get around the human rights restrictions,
Yeah.
and you use the Navy, and that was Cummings' view. And that's the way to do it. But
Although we've seen in Europe, I mean, Europe's really showing the way. If you want to talk about beefing up borders, look at Sweden's got actual an outflow of people now, especially to countries such as Syria, Iraq, Libya, places like that. Um, Germany is toughing up
negative immigration they've achieved with,
negative
yeah.
immigration. Yeah, so instead of having like we have 1.2 million people coming here each year, so that results in a sort of net inflow of about 700,000. In Sweden, they're now seeing a net outflow, and they're seeing a lot of people leave for from the communities that are causing more of the crime problems in Sweden. Germany as well has just announced is going to toughen up. France has got they've announced rules that mean that even people born in France can be deported. So a lot of Europe and Poland is using live ammo to protect the border. I mean that's incredible. That's a real Rubicon being crossed.
I know.
Um,
We haven't kind of noticed, have we? I mean, how has Sweden done that? I mean, they've got this is calling it zero net immigration. I've heard that it's actually more going out. Is that's I mean, that's not just illegals, that's legal as well. I mean, how the heck have they done that?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they did it, but I do know that Sweden. I mean, I guess it's a smaller country, so it's Britain's more of an oil tanker. I guess it takes longer to turn policy around, and Britain's more in the grip of leftist ideology. So because we've got so many ideals like diversity equals strength, which aren't necessarily based on facts. They're more a sort of utopian ideal. I mean, it would be nice if diversity equaled strength. You know what I mean? And maybe a bit of diversity does equal strength, but I think there's you reach a point. It's like the Laffer curve where diversity stops being a strength and starts becoming a source of sectarian conflict and balkanization.
Yeah.
Um,
But
but
Germany are
yeah,
even
and
offering them money, aren't they, as well? Germany are offering people money to leave. They're calling it travel money. It's like pocket money. Here you go, have some money. Can you get out of the
yeah,
country?
yeah, yeah. Which it might create a sort of loop of people coming back and then going again. But yeah, I think a lot of European countries are just sort of waking up to the reality of it. So maybe it's a good time for us to rejoin the EU. Maybe Keir Starmer is right that we need to.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I mean, because they're going so right wing. I ended up doing the whole show on this blooming Starmer speech. I mean, to get onto other topics, but I do want to quickly ask: what did you think about the civil service corruption, where Labour basically parachuting in lots of former employees? Jess Sargent springs to mind. Ian Corfield, is it, who was actually had to step down, and they're just parachuting people in who had jobs with Labour, who are supposed to be neutral. They're just sticking them into the civil service. Some say it's because Sue Gray won't sign off on SPAD, so they have to do it by the back door. They went on and on about cronyism. Now they're just doing pure cronyism. And what do you think to any of that?
Well, yeah, this is like I was talking about when Tony Blair got in. This sort of installing people in the civil service who'd actually do what the government wanted instead of push back against it. So this is exactly what Rishi Sunak. This is exactly what the Tories should have been doing all that time.
Just
Gets
abusing the rules and all precedent and sticking in your own people.
government like a government that doesn't do anything, that can't get anything done, is a pointless, useless government. And to be honest, a pointless, useless government is the best kind of government. Like the worst kind of government is the government that can actually get involved in your life and change things and tell you what to do.
That's the
Like it's
Aesop's
like the
fable of the log and the stalk that Peter Hitchens was talking about. You know that one?
Yeah, it's like the best type of boss is one like David Brent who just lets you tit about and do what you want.
Chilled out
And the worst
entertainer.
kind of boss is the one who's all like, "Oh, we need to have a one-to-one. Here's your performance appraisal." It's, oh, fuck's sake, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is what the Tories should have been doing, and I don't know why they didn't do it. And the worst thing is, the Tories probably had like better ideas, even though they are, considerably left wing, considerably more left wing than the Tories in the 80s. the, Man, they should have done that and enacted their things. Somehow, Labour, despite having terrible ideas, they've managed to get people in so they can and now the entire public sector ecosystem is Labour aligned. The civil service, all the public sector, the councils and everything, the unions, everything's just, and all the NGOs. I mean, this is what they do in Ireland. The government just pays NGOs to tell it what it wants to hear, and then it can have this facade of like, oh, we're responding to public concerns. And that's that happens in the UK a lot as well, not to the same extent as in Ireland. But yeah, I think the Tories had a chance to really get in and sort of reform the public sector, and they didn't do it. And now look what you've got.
Yeah,
Now
no.
Labour have actually got the energy and the ability to do that sort of have that influence in the public sector, and it's going to be used to push through the most horrific legislation that's just going to erode all of our freedoms and all of our prosperity.
And that's the problem. Labour, they have an ideology. They want to actually do stuff. Tories never really know why they're there. They're just there to manage decline. But Starmer, yeah, incredibly grim speech then. We talked about it for quite a while. We'll move on, but it was grim. And he had a chance with Oasis reforming. He had a chance for it to be 1997 again. Tony Blair, good times. Someone was like, look, I did this for you, Starmer. I gave you, I think it was Nima. He was like, I gave you this. He gave him Oasis even, and he absolutely balls up. It's like, things are only going to get worse. I don't think people accept that, even if it's reality. People don't really accept that message. It's a terrible message. His approval rating has plummeted. It's like minus 16 as we record. People
Yeah,
won't accept that. There's already all these polls. People trust him. I'm just reading a Twitter thread on this. People already trust him less because of the corruption thing. People think that he cares more about party than country. He ran on country over party famously. He's just,
yeah.
it's just a terrible speech and a terrible message. And I think his popularity will keep dropping.
Yeah, I think if you're a good politician, like Tony Blair, for example, and I'm not saying that in terms of like he's a good man or his ideas are good, because a lot of ideas seem good at the time, like devolution, like uh, faith schools and all the rest of it. They seem like good ideas, but they turned out to be terrible ideas. But if you're a good politician, you can sell. Like Tony Blair wouldn't come out and be like, it's going to be brutal, not just for 5 years, for 10 years at least. It's going to be absolutely brutal. I'm just going to be pulling out your fingernails one by one. Tony Blair would come out and like sell it.
Yeah.
Tony Blair would, inspire some optimism and inspire the country. I can't see. I'm wondering if Keir Starmer is going to last much longer, to be honest, because he's had a catastrophic start. I mean, we knew it was going to be bad, but like, and I know the first bit of a 5 year term, you're going to get the sort of horrible stuff out the way, so then you can start giving people some sweeties. But this is just, and it's also blatant. Given the unions like a £50 billion pay rise, because obviously they've just bought it with with their union subs that they pay to Labour. Same with net zero. Like Labour gets so much money from the green energy lobby, and then just pays it back. It's just like the same old corrupt politics. It's just they're doing it a bit more Greta Thunberg and pretending to be good. I don't think Keir Starmer is going to last much longer, to be honest.
I wonder about that. Yeah, I think the same. But then other times I think, well, no, they have this total control of the country now. They're just gonna, it'll just get worse and worse. He's just in there as we become the third world. But part of me thinks, yeah, he's so bad and so hated that he can't last. Then you think, am I just in my own bubble? Even though I look at the stats and his approval is down, maybe people don't care outside of my bubble, and he will just last forever. So I don't know. I go back and forth on that.
But I think when the moment I lost faith in him, because I thought he was making a lot of noises before the election that made it sound like he might be the Tory prime minister we never had. You know what I mean? And then as soon as the riots happened, that was the moment I genuinely thought he was going to come out and address the nation and be like, "Look, I know people have got concerns, and he was going to address both sides." And instead, he was just like, "No." He was just like, "There's no reason to protest. The reason for protest doesn't matter." And bear in mind, he was saying this, a matter of days after little girls had been deliberately stabbed, which, in my mind, it's somehow worse than a bomb, because a bomb is indiscriminate. Like the Manchester Arena bomb was indiscriminately killing whoever was there. This guy had to go around like deliberately stabbing each little girl, and for me that changed me inside, and I was just now I'm just like, no, we've got to deal with this. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if people call me a far right bigot. We've got to deal with this problem. And it keeps happening again and again across Europe. We saw it just happening in Germany. It's an issue. And it also, it's not specifically the Southport stabbings. It's a much bigger issue, and I think even if that wasn't Islamist inspired, then it was a catalyst for something much bigger. But instead of coming out and addressing everybody, and acknowledging that people had concerns on both sides, and there were things to be addressed, and they had work to do. he really divided the nation, and I think that was a massive, massive, massive mistake. And I think he lost, a lot of people. Um, when you're looking at a political leader, it's your gut and your heart that matter. Um, and obviously, his actual logic and the intellectual side of things is terrible as well. But the gut, the heart showed that he wasn't there for regular British people.
Absolutely, and it didn't surprise me because I was expecting him to be awful and evil. But I'll give it. I'll give it. It did surprise me slightly how bad it was, and then he did a second press conference, and that was even worse. And now he's still doubling down on it in the speech yesterday, Tuesday this week, as we record it. It was we're doing this on Wednesday. He doubled down again and said the people throwing rocks, torching cars, making threats, they didn't just know the system was broken, they were betting on it, gaming it. They thought they'll never arrest me, and if they do, I won't be prosecuted. So he thinks they're calculated. At the same time, he called them mindless thugs. And as Simon Evans pointed out, are they mindless or are they calculating? Which one is it? But I thought it was completely wrong. Those are people having an emotional response. You can say it's
Yeah,
misguided, you can condemn violence, but it's like, you look at that woman who was arrested, she's like, I just came out for them babies. They were having an emotional response to the Southport thing because they knew it was horrific and they knew this kind of
yeah,
thing keeps going on. Instinctually, they said, right, that's enough. Just like you didn't said,
yeah,
that's a line. You didn't go out and break stuff, but they drew a line and they said, I can't take it anymore. That's not calculated. He's completely wrong. The people who are calculating are people like the Nando's guy hitting the girl in the face with the plate, which we could talk about. But the people who are calculating to me are the people who say, "Oh, there seems to be a two-tier system. I can get away with stuff."
yeah.
These are not people who are calculating. They're having an emotional response to a child being murdered or several children being murdered.
Yeah, and people on the left were incredibly calculating. I mean, Hope Not Hate, who are supposed to, supposed to be against hate and supposed to be, dampening things down. They're government advisors. They've got credibility because they're trusted government advisors. They've got status. And Nick Lowell's, the head of Hope Not Hate, shared an absolutely vile and dangerous hoax that far right thugs were throwing acid in the faces of Muslim women. Completely concocted. It wasn't verified. The police even stepped in to say this isn't true. We've had no reports of this. We haven't been able to validate this, and he still left it up, and it had an impact. There were videos of Muslim men, like one in particular. I saw the guy was absolutely furious. I've come down here to defend our Muslim women because they're getting acid thrown in their face by far right thugs. So if that group of guys had seen a white guy walking his dog or whatever, they could have, like, something terrible could have happened. It was clear incitement from Nick Lowell's. Nick Lowell's hasn't faced any prosecution, and that was a clear, calculated move to whip up this idea that there's a mass of far right thugs. There's 100 far right riots happening across the country. Man, there's probably not 100 far right people in the country. And that was all to whip up hysteria, which is the opposite of what Hope Not Hate should be doing. It was to whip up division, because the more division there is, the more status Hope Not Hate have, the more of a problem they can create, the more they can say to the government, look, you need us and you need to give us funding. And their sister organization, Stand Up to Racism, I think they're called, had a fundraiser off the back of all that, saying, we need to stand up to these 100 far right riots that are being organized tonight. They were completely concocted, by the way. The acid attack and the 100 far right riots, completely just invented based on nothing. And
Yeah.
I thought it was disgusting to see the left do that.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that Nick Lowell's post would count as misinformation or not, but it was as incitement, but it was certainly count as misinformation, and it was reshared by Josh Fenton Glynn, the Labour MP, as well. Well, anyway,
Yeah,
Nick Lowell's apologised, so that's all good. So no prison
but
for
he
him.
didn't take the post down.
I know it's mad. I mean, compare it. I know we can talk about a two-tier thing all day, and yeah, we know what they're doing. I'm just trying to think: is it libelous to say it's incitement, having been in trouble on this podcast before? But I don't. Probably not. Is it? I'm always getting in trouble for stuff on it. If you say something on the podcast, I'm responsible apparently. So unless I get you to sign a waiver after, I can be responsible as the publisher. So I have to just say I don't know if it was incitement. It was definitely misinformation. What about Notting Hill Carnival? We have a bit of time. I've gone so much on Starmer, but we need to do a few other topics. Notting Hill Carnival, 230 arrests. Speaking of two-tier policing, 5 stabbings. There was 3 people in life-threatening condition. 37 emergency service workers attacked. Who attacks an emergency service worker? There was a
Mm.
corrosive substance attack. There was. It's unbelievable. I mean, last year there was 6 police officers bitten, so at least no one was bitten. But I looked at the cost. Last year this cost 11.75 million, basically, almost rounded up 11.8 million this cost. You know people are going to be stabbed every year, yet it goes ahead. Police say it takes months of planning. And you go, why is this thing going ahead? Like, I understand, like, driving people down the road, but we get to not live in an agricultural society. Like, but why does the Notting Hill Carnival carnage need to go ahead every year?
I mean, I guess. Well, we know why. I mean, if that was
I know you go down
organised,
as a black woman. I know you're there every year, but maybe you like the
well,
carnival.
I seem to end up going through it every year. And man, I got to say, like, we need to. There's more fat people on display now than ever. I've noticed that. Like, it used to be, people were kind of attractive, or at least if you're gonna dress very skimpily, you would be attractive. And now, oh my god, the absolute state of some of them, all wearing that sort of string mesh. It looks like a tuna fisherman's net or something, just stretched over these
We got a big
cellulite
one.
buttocks.
We-
Oh
you
man.
just you send that net out. You come back with one. We've got a
Yeah,
Notting Hill
yeah,
dancer. Throw it back.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I love the way you say fat people on display, as if they're like, and now we have a fat person. Like they're just like trailing. But yeah, you're right. There was a
Yeah.
picture
Well,
from
yeah,
the.
no, because some of them are literally on floats.
Oh,
So,
really?
which ironically is what they could do in the sea, and probably the only place they'd look graceful.
Do you know what?
But
Yeah, they wouldn't be the biggest creature if they were up against blue whales. But I mean, yeah, there was pictures from the '60s or whatever. It was like black and white photos, and the women are like slim and attractive, and the police officers are well dressed. You look at it now, like you say, they're wearing nothing.
yeah,
They're grotesquely overweight. Hey, well, I shouldn't say grotesquely, but hey, we all struggle with our weight. But then again, I'm not naked at a carnival stabbing people. I mean, it's madness, isn't it? Or are the right being too sensitive, and should it actually just go ahead?
I think the right is maybe being a bit too sensitive because, like, I wouldn't want, like, if Notting Hill Carnival gets shut down, then they've got the right to shut down other stuff. And if you get, like, because apparently, 1 million to maybe 2 million people attend the carnival, so that's a good proportion of the population of London. So if you got that many people together, there'd be that many stabbings. That's just. I wouldn't expect Notting Hill Carnival to be a stab-free zone with like 2 million people at it. You know what I mean?
I see what you're
So
saying. I still disagree because it's like Sky News have been gaslighting us all. They're just so funny. They actually
yeah,
said the thing. I'm trying to find this one. This, but yeah, when she
mostly
said,
peaceful.
yeah, it's been really peaceful. I go, yeah, I mean, and this was at the time there was only 38 arrests. She goes, it's been 38 arrests, 4 knives been recovered, 1 man stabbed, but overall, it's been really peaceful. She literally said the meme. I'm like, because I put that out, it's got 16,000 likes because it's so ridiculous. It's like
Yeah,
she said the meme. It's like, oh my. And they've just been Sky's have done multiple gaslighting videos about how someone called it an important cultural landmark. Is it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's not. I'm not an arbiter of culture, but it's not an important cultural landmark for me. But
Yeah.
I do think the Caribbean community is a better integrated community than some other communities. And I think, at Notting Hill Carnival, you always see a lot of, it's not just all, one ethnicity. Is a very mixed place. So I don't know. And I've got friends who go to it and they have a good time. So yeah,
Okay.
I just think if it was shut down, then I think what we need to do is call out the sort of two-tier reporting on it because like there's the Patriot rallies. I don't know what they were officially called, but like they had Tommy Robinson, Lawrence Fox, people like that speaking at these rallies, and they were like almost completely without any event whatsoever. They had loads of tens of thousands of people just out celebrating Britain again. Very lots of different Israel flags, British flags, different races and ethnicities, and they were condemned as far right bigots, far right Nazi bigots. Meet for it, and it's like, man, like they're obviously not Nazis. They're like they're obviously not Nazis. Nazis wouldn't be waving Israel flags. Nazis wouldn't accept Israel flags in the crowd. So yeah, I think we need to call out the sort of two-tier reporting on it. But if we shut down Notting Hill Carnival, man, that gives them precedent to shut down anything else.
Well, some people said to me, "What about Glastonbury?" And like Fraser Nelson and these other libs have been posting, Glastonbury's actually It's like, but guys, I'm also against Glastonbury. Let's be clear. I mean, I despise
Yeah,
Glastonbury, this festival of midwits, like overpriced garbage. I went in 98.
yeah,
98 was one of the worst things I've ever done. Completely
Oh
against it.
man, like yeah, Glastonbury music. I used to go to music festivals a lot as a performer, performing comedy, and even getting paid and getting to stay in a nicer place. It's not very nice, but yeah, I'm happy for Glastonbury to go ahead if it doesn't have a wall around it, because they have speeches from Jeremy Corbyn be like, oh, we're good to have open borders. It's like show us the benefits of open borders by having open borders at your event. Instead, you got like a double wall. It looks like stalag luft. There's like watchtowers, snipers. You know what I mean? You got pits of water with crocodiles. Like why? Like if we're not allowed that along, the Kent coast, then why are you allowed it at Glastonbury? You
Yeah.
ponces. Also, like man, if diversity is such a straight, let's give every asylum seeker in the country should get a free ticket to Glastonbury, and not like create space for them. Just they can go on top of the completely full Glastonbury Festival, and you can see the benefits of having extra people come into a place that's already at its supposed capacity.
Yeah, no, I think we should model our policy, like you say, on the Glastonbury wall. We should call it Operation Glastonbury. You just have a big, beautiful wall around Glastonbury, gun turrets and everything, and then we use that to the border. So yeah, we
Hmm.
based it on Glastonbury. We saw so much peace and love, and machine gun turrets there. We just thought we'd copy that. Um, on the two-tier thing, Starmer was so keen to call everyone thugs, but he didn't call the Notting Hill people thugs. I just noticed, Leo, that, and I think
Hmm.
this tiers thing. Just want to quickly touch on that Nando story because it's so interesting. It's not actually two tiers. We call it two tiers. It's really multiple tiers. So you had this incident where the young woman was working at Nando's. She seems very sensible. She did a video on it. And this guy who seems to be a Muslim, judging by his appearance and his wife, I don't know if it's actually confirmed or I better should probably check that. But I think he seemed to be. Anyway,
I think he was Amish,
oh yeah, Amish, of course, that's true.
possibly
And he
Welsh.
hits her in the face with a plate, and no one, the managers sort of ignored it. They get to finish their meal. They're laughing with the female police officer. It got dismissed by the police initially until there was backlash. And you just go, okay, so she's a sort of British black woman who can also, there's different tiers. If there was a migrant, a legal migrant who came in from sub-Saharan Africa and attacked her, he would also get priority. So if you're a black
Hmm.
British woman, you also are in a lower tier. And of course, if you're a Hindu or a Sikh, you're in a lower tier than a Muslim. So there's various tiers. We call it two tier
Yeah.
because, of course, and white working class people are at the absolute bottom. But within that, there are sort of different tiers as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think other minorities can see it, and a lot of people who aren't. It's interesting you mentioned Sikh, Hindu as well. A lot of those people, come to the UK, integrate, work hard, contribute, and then they're going to experience the backlash of, we're obviously heading towards some sort of inflection point where, the country, Keir Starmer, despite arresting people for memes, isn't going to be able to keep a lid on the sectarian um, divides that are erupting. And unfortunately, there's a lot of good people who've been here for a long time, made it their home, feel very patriotic, feel very British. My uncle's Indian, and he's a very patriotic guy, and they're gonna get the backlash. And it's, man, if the left were really keen on safety and tolerance and things like that, they wouldn't persist in this mad experiment of importing 1.2 million new people every year.
Yeah, I know it's madness, and it just seems to me Starmer likes you. The more crimes you commit, I mean, he's famous for going around the world getting off brutal murderers off the death penalty in places like Uganda and Malawi. And he just, if you're an illegal migrant, it comes in. It's like brilliant. It's like top trumps. If you come in illegally, you do a crime, you're like the absolute favorite. If you're a Muslim that commits a crime, there's just different levels
Yeah.
of and the tax paying law abiding citizen is the most hated. And this is
Yeah,
called a
yeah,
narco
yeah,
tyranny.
yeah.
This is a
Yeah,
narco
and
tyranny.
also it fits in with all the left are all guided by, every institution is guided by critical race theory now. So, it basically says, it's communism just made racist. It's like racist communism. Like, how can you make communism worse? Make it racist. But they say, like, if anybody's successful or if anybody's got anything, they only got it from ripping off somebody who doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
So, if somebody has got a good job and is paying a lot of tax, then it's because this poor guy they must have ripped off this poor guy for some reason. It's the politics of envy and hatred.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe I've been unfair to Muslims as well because you got all the law-abiding Muslims, and they are not as well liked by the government as the ones that commit crimes because they're just
Yeah.
law-abiding and paying tax, so they're also bad. Um, that's my view of Starmer. You don't have much time. So I've got so many stories. We got the Telegram. Any quick thoughts on this Telegram CEO who got arrested? And it's a controversial one because there's this long list of things that the French authorities who got arrested in France are saying he's done. And so it's kind of the Andrew Tate dilemma. It's like, I got in trouble sort of defending Tate because I didn't think he'd done these things. But if you defend this Pablo guy and he's like, he's been abetting child, don't even say the word on YouTube, but, horrific stuff. Because they're claiming he's done that because he's presiding over this platform where presumably everything bad happens. But
Yeah.
if you defend him, some people are saying, well, it's terrible to defend him because without really understanding it or knowing what he's done. But on the other side, the suspicion is this is just more anti-free speech crackdowns from Europe.
Yeah, no. So this is Pavel Durov. He's the founder of Telegram, which is a sort of messaging social media app that's used. He's Russian. It's used in Russia a lot. The Russian military use it a lot. I wonder if that's the underlying reason behind him getting arrested. He was arrested in France. So this is France is a Western democracy allegedly. Arresting somebody because their platform is used by terrorists, pornographers, all the rest of it. I mean, the problem with that is telephones are used by terrorists. The postal service was used by the IRA to send bombs. Where do you draw the line? A platform isn't, and also Telegram's moderation is tougher and tighter than a lot of other social media platforms. Certainly Mastodon, which is the favorite of the left. That's where they all flock to after Twitter. Apparently more than half of the content on Mastodon is like child. Can I say pornography?
I don't know. I don't know what we're allowed to say on YouTube. It's such a grim phrase. I don't even like saying it. But yeah, we're not the
Yeah,
BBC, so
I think I think it's okay.
we
It's
don't
okay
like it.
to say that won't demonetize you or anything. But it's interesting that he's come after, and and Pavel Durov has previously been praised by the West because Russia wanted him to give them access to Telegram so they could see what Ukrainian troops and Ukrainian people were saying, and they refused. They said no, this is privacy and all the rest of it.
And he had to leave Russia.
So
Yeah, and there's a picture of him saying "Up yours" to Putin.
yeah, yeah. And interestingly, now the UAE has stepped in. Um, I think he's got UAE citizenship. So the UAE has stepped in and put on hold a contract for 80 fighter jets from France. So that's worth £10 billion. It's going to be a big economic and also diplomatic blow to France. But it's interesting that this sort of tribal monarchy has had to step in to uphold freedom of speech in the West, whereas our Western democratic leaders, the first chance they get, they want to stamp out and restrict free speech.
Yeah, that is hilarious. I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? Because the list of charges, here you go. France made public the 12 charges against Telegram founder and CEO Pavel Durov: complicity for illegal transactions by organized crime groups, refusal to provide the authorities with information or documents necessary for criminal investigations, complicity dissemination of porn featuring minors, making it possible for organized groups to share. It just goes on and on. Then they're absolutely horrific. And so there's that problem where if he did do that, that's obviously very bad. But if it is just a crackdown on free speech, then that's bad. There was a sort of amusing detail that Macron is apparently loves Telegram and is like addicted to using it. So he's got
Right.
all Macron's info somewhere in there. I mean, and it's really just the judiciary that wanted to get him and not Macron. This is what I've heard. So who knows?
Yeah.
That's a strange twist. And
But then, how distant are the judiciary from politics? Because everybody's like, oh, the judiciary are completely independent from Keir Starmer. And it's like, really? Because they seem to be doing everything that Keir Starmer wants.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. The judiciary. Yeah. No. He's like, I didn't think they would actually be able to do it, but they did. I was like, they did just do what you said, and yeah, it really does seem like those judges are just cracking down because Starmer's told them. It is, and it is dodgy. Um, while we're on tech, what about um, Elon Musk? Will he get arrested? And what about Zuckerberg? I mean, I'm asking you too many questions, but did you see this Zuckerberg thing where he basically he said that they were asked to suppress information during COVID, and they were asked to fact check the Hunter Biden story, so they sort of demoted it while it was being fact checked. And now he regrets all this, and he says he won't do it again. Here you go. This was a letter to Jim Jordan. He said in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including human satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. And he's now saying, in hindsight, it was wrong. He wouldn't do it today. And he also said there were this Biden family thing was potential Russian disinformation, so they demoted the story while it was fact checked. So now he's saying he wouldn't do that. And do you think there's like a kind of Silicon Valley seems to be moving very much in favor of Trump and against the Democrats who just seem just so corrupt?
Yeah, well, Musk has come out and I think he's given $45 million a month in funding to Trump to help him get reelected. And I don't think Trump is an ideal candidate for a sort of libertarian Silicon Valley person, but he's much better than the Democrats, who are just openly, they've sort of any pretense has fallen away, and they're just openly communist now. They're like, our ideals are communism. So they call it equity, but it's essentially the same thing. So I think the arrest of Pavel Durov, I don't think it is just some random judge in France has decided to do this in a whim. This is a message to Musk, because he's been locked in battles with the European Union. I'm with Keir Starmer and I'm with the Democrats over freedom of speech. And yeah, it's a message to Musk and to other social media platforms that it's almost like Xi Jinping and what's his name, the guy who got locked up, the tech guru who got locked up
Oh
over
yeah,
there.
from
Jack
Alibaba,
Ma.
Jack Ma.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's a message to them, saying, you better do what we want and suppress stuff that we want, because they want to bring in all these rules. The Online Safety Act in the UK that's going to suppress what they call harmful information and misinformation. And the trouble with that is, like, who decides what's misinformation? When we let the left wing establishment decide what misinformation is, then completely valid stories such as the Hunter Biden laptop scandal get treated as misinformation, even though they're true. And genuine things, like, they keep repeating this thing that Trump said, the Charlottesville rally contained fine people, and it's been debunked so many. It's even been debunked by Snopes. So what I mean. So Trump didn't say this, and it keeps getting repeated. So really, it's about who controls what can be said, and where it can be said. And Musk is right. If you want a prosperous, free country with the best possible political system and the most informed public, you've got to allow freedom of speech, and you've got to allow people to make mistakes, and you can't be sending people to jail. You got to just allow it, because so much stuff that's misinformation then becomes classified as, actually it's true, like the Wuhan lab leak. There's so many examples. But obviously, if you're an authoritarian left-wing government, then you want to control everything that's being said, so you can stay in power, so you can make sure people just get your message.
Yeah, I think Musk's Twitter is very radical, and I think obviously not even he can control it. And in a sense, he's radicalized by it himself. He sees content and goes, "Is this true?" And I sort of, people call him Iron Man. I see him more like the Incredible Hulk, like a sort of chaos agent, or maybe he's like a kind of benign Dr. Frankenstein, because he's created this thing. We don't know where it's going either. A lot of truth can circulate, a lot of mad ideas can circulate, but also a lot of truth can circulate, and a lot of inconvenient truths, and a lot of videos that were not available, and people, and it does sort of make people go, "Wow, this is actually the truth." And I don't think even he can control it. And I think when he talks about free speech, my theory is, well, he's talking about free speech of the 90s, or sort of his sort of Generation X mentality. But he doesn't even know what free speech using X looks like. But of course, I'm in favor of it. I'm sort of, because I hate the regime and the liberal managerial class, I'm sort of gambling
Yeah.
that this will probably fall in my favor. And they're, of course, terrified and trying to delegitimize it by leaving or trying to shut it down with the online safety bill or whatever they're going to do. Whereas it seems to me we don't really know where it's going either. We're just sort of going, well, generally more freedom is better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. More freedom is better, and also you can see, people say, "Oh, it's allowing right wing voices," blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, people are a lot more right wing than you pretend. People are a lot more right wing than the Guardian, the Independent, the BBC, and this is what people really think. Everybody's allowed on Twitter. Everybody's allowed on X. like when the left controlled it, they censored, they stifled all these voices. Nobody's stifling the left. They're just they're just complaining that right wing people have got a voice,
Yeah.
and they're complaining that the world isn't like our ideological utopian vision. The world is a lot more real and a lot more right wing.
Yeah, it's
Um,
my old catchphrase. Reality is right wing. It's so
yeah,
true. It's so true. And just lastly on this kind of area, because I know you've got to go. Do you think this RFK Jr. thing is significant? Trump's been endorsed by RFK Jr. He's stepping down in key states to allow him to win. Basically, Tulsi Gabbard has endorsed Trump. So now we have RFK Jr. Obviously from one of the most elite families in American history. His uncle is
yeah,
JFK. His father is Bobby Kennedy. You've got Tulsi Gabbard, also a Democrat, well respected. You've got who else? You've got Silicon Valley. You've got Musk. And I think there's loads of Silicon Valley people probably backing Trump secretly, but lots have come out and done it publicly. So it's just
yeah.
a kind of, you've got elite figures really like Trump. And if you believe elite theory, you don't have a ground up revolution. What you have is a counter elite takes over. So is this a kind of legitimate counter elite whereby obviously the Kennedys are an elite family, Trump is an elite family, but they're a slightly more benign elite that seems to at least care about the American people, whereas the Democrats have just become so corrupt. They're the party of ultra rich donors. They'll just get rid of their candidate. They've been awful to RFK. His running mate said that they just made a completely disillusion about America. They've destroyed our fair and free democracy. And they're prepared to back Trump just to get these people out. So is this a kind of realignment of politics where the Republicans are like the Democrats are now the nasty party, and people are gathering together unexpected allies just to really get rid of these people?
Yeah, well, I think the Democrats are willing to destroy America to stay in power. So the whole idea behind the open borders. I mean, part of it's this utopian vision that we should live in a borderless communist world. But the nuts and bolts, the real driver behind it, the real benefit to the Democrats is that the people that are coming in are generally going to be voting leftward when they get their ID cards. And they get their ID cards about 20 minutes after they come over the border. So, so they think it's great. It's like importing voters. It's like, for Starmer, it's like buying votes from the unions. Or the Peronists, buying votes from the public sector. The Democrats are buying voters from outside the country and bringing them in. But they're not sort of understanding the ramifications of what that's going to mean for a formerly stable, harmonious country to have this influx. And anytime people get a vote for mass immigration, they always reject mass immigration. If you look at Brexit, that was pretty much a proxy vote on mass immigration. But the state always seems to think that people want more mass immigration. So Trump, even though he's not like an ideal candidate from a, I guess, libertarian point of view, because he's very he wants a lot of market control, and a lot of his market controls are actually kept by the Democrats. His tariffs on Chinese goods and stuff. Um, but he's probably the best out of the two because he doesn't want to create this open borders communist anarchic hellscape. Um, but RFK Jr. Might not have the impact he was going to have. He was already sliding in the polls because I think he reached the sort of the low teens a while back, but he was down at 5-6%. And he's not off the ballot. The Democrats have managed to stop him being taken off the ballot, and I think it's Michigan and Wisconsin. So I think those are the states. There's a couple of swing states. So even though he's pulled out, his name will still be there. And some of these swing states, man, the American elections are just decided in a few states. And if he, you know, if he's not completely off the ballot, then it might not have the impact they want.
That's the weirdest twist, isn't it? The guy that they spent millions trying to take out of the race, and one reason his popularity went down may have been that, if you believe him, they spent millions with lawsuits, lawfare, suing him, putting plants into his campaign. They did everything they can to take this guy out. What a strange twist that they will then force him to stay on the ballot in order to try and destroy Trump. That is the
Yeah.
maddest. You're right. He won't be able to remove himself from Wisconsin and Michigan. That's a new update. Um, yeah, it's great you brought that up. And it's that's so weird. We're going to force you to run because you're the candidate that we want to destroy. but now we want to destroy the other guy more. It's just like
Yeah,
mind-blowing
it's
levels of,
pure politics.
oh, the Dems are good at that. I mean, they're absolutely sick freaks who are just so, it's like Nancy Pelosi saying to, allegedly saying to Joe Biden, you can do this the easy way or the hard way. You know what I mean? Just like, they're just proper criminals, these people. And on that
Man,
topic,
that's like sort of Goodfellas
I
level.
know. And she
Like,
comes from that kind of background. You got it. It's like, it's so dodgy, man. I mean, and it makes you think Trump's going to get in. He's already announced they're going to open an assassination file looking into all these assassinations. So, yeah, he's going to release the files on JFK and it's probably his own assassination. Like, it's like,
yeah.
uh, don't you think they've got to beef up security? Like, you've got Trump that he's already been shot at. You've got the guy whose uncle and father were both murdered. Now they're getting insane. They're going to open up the files. Don't you think they just need beefed up security? That basically needs to live in some sort of like protective bubble at all times. Trump needs to live behind bulletproof glass because
Yeah,
that's one way. I wouldn't rule out another attempt. Would you rule it out? I mean,
yeah. I mean, no, they probably spend a bit more money this time because the last guy was terrible. You know what I mean? That was real. That just shows the impact that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, has had on. You know, they pick this guy. They're like, well, look, he's neurodiverse. That's really good. We can tick that box in the form. We'll get some Arts Council funding for this.
yeah.
But yeah, like completely useless. Man, I wouldn't hire that. That guy couldn't
But he was
fucking
a
paint
white
a
guy,
wall.
wasn't he?
Never
I
mind.
mean, they go back to the white guys. They're like, when it really needs to get done, but he was
Yeah,
neurodiverse, so they messed up.
yeah.
Is that what we're
But there's so
saying?
much. There's so
Surely
much dodgy
autistic people are
stuff.
the best shooters. I mean, the detail
Yeah, yeah,
orientation. This is one of the
yeah.
most offensive podcasts we've ever done. Um, I don't know where the line is anymore because I live in this world of right wing memes that Musk is
Yeah.
filtering to me. All right, well, you got to go. Sorry for going over. Where can people find you?
Oh, so I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. That's the best places to find me until I get kicked off both
Have
of
you
those.
managed to get your name just Leo Kearse
On YouTube.
on Twitter?
Yeah, yeah, both of them.
Ah, it's
Both of
so
them.
annoying, man.
It's
I
Leo
still
Kearse.
can't get my name. It's a bot just sitting on it. Okay,
Oh no.
so go to Leo Kearse, and your YouTube is excellent, and you're doing very well on Twitter actually, and your YouTube is doing really well.
Yeah, it's like it's taken off. I'm hopefully gonna start doing adverts and making some like money off it. I've got a Patreon as well, so the Patreon's good because it sort of spurs you to, well, as you'll know, having a similar sort of thing. It spurs, like, people have input, and it spurs you to sort of make stuff. I sort of make it for my patrons, but then I put it on YouTube as well,
Okay,
so other people can see it.
and so
But
okay,
my patrons are the community who discuss stuff and push it forward.
okay, so go on to Leo's Patreon. He's got all the links on his Twitter and a link tree. And then go on his YouTube, which is 123k followers now. Very impressive. You sort of sneakily were getting on with that for years, and I didn't notice. And it's annoying, and now I'm way behind. But it's very impressive. And you're one of the few people I actually want to do well. So um, just kidding. I love everybody. I love everybody. Thanks, Leo. And you can find me at nickdixon.net. That's my Substack with all my articles, my extra content, and all that business, and more, far more content in the future. Just endless content every day. nickdixon.net. And thanks, mate.
Thanks, Nick.
See ya.
See you. Bye.